4 days ago, the MTA released their final Queens bus redesign plan. Having used so many Queens bus routes, I decided to read it and give my own thoughts on this plan. Now, before I begin, this video was pretty quickly done, when the plan is fresh on everyone's minds, so if I made a mistake, please let me know. And also, I am going to concentrate on the bus routes in Eastern and Southern Queens, because having used them a lot, I feel like I can provide a better commentary for them. Without further ado, here is the good, the bad, and the truth of the Queens bus redesign. I want to focus on the good first, and the first one is obvious: the rush routes. These rush routes are great for shuttling transit deserts to transit hubs, with denser stop spacing in the outskirts and wider stop spacing in the middle. This will definitely lower commute times, though I have to question the width of some of these streets. If a street is too narrow, I can envision a rush bus trapped behind a local bus. This can definitely happen on, say, 46th Avenue in Queens, but for the most part, these rush routes are being placed on wide boulevards, so that is good. Another one is the Q98. Paralleling the Q58, the Q98 is advertised as a faster and straighter alternative from Ridgewood to Flushing, and this is definitely needed, as now the Q58 is the second most used bus route in the city, ahead of some infamously crowded bus routes like the BX12 and B46. This is because of the growth of Queens, especially Flushing, Corona, and Elmhurst, plus the rise of the Brooklyn to Queens trip. So it is nice to see the MTA propose another bus route, the Q98, to pick up the slack. One thing to note is that the Q58 snakes around Queens. It is good for picking up large amounts of passengers, but bad for speed. And also, some of these roads are horrible, and it only takes one double parked car for the entire Q58 route to bunch. With the Q98, the route is straighter, which means that the trip is going to be faster. I do hope that the Q98 gets implemented soon, because the Q58 is one of the slowest bus routes I have ever taken. Finally, a ton of routes were simplified and extended. For example, the Q38 is being split in half, and the other half, the Q14, now runs to LaGuardia. That is huge. The Q50 now runs to LaGuardia, which again is a boon to thousands of not only North Queens residents, but also Bronx residents. And routes that are notorious for a ton of stops are being made rush, like the Q2, the Q13, Q28, Q83, and Q111. Again, that is good because no one likes stopping at every single block. Now that I am done talking about the good things that I see about the plan, I want to talk about the criticisms of the plan. The final plan rolled back a ton of radical changes. Of course, some of these changes are good, while some of these changes were bad. But overall, it seemed to me that the final plan should have kept more of those changes. The first one has to deal with the Q88. Under the first two plans, the Q88 would have not turned at 188th Street, but would have kept going via Horace Harding Expressway until the border of Nassau County. But the final plan scrapped those changes and put the Q88 back on 73rd Avenue. Look, I understand that 73rd Avenue is more residential than Horace Harding Expressway, but Horace Harding Expressway has way more commercial activity in schools. I think a second route called the Q89 would be better, and would follow the Q88 all the way up to 188th Street, and would keep running on Horace Harding Expressway to the border of Nassau County. I think that this will serve the commercial and schools well, as I have been on those Q88 buses that continue to Horace Harding Expressway and Francis Lewis Boulevard. They always have people on board after 188th Street, so why not run full-length Horace Harding Expressway buses? Another one is how the MTA puts some garbage frequencies for the Q52 and Q53. The Q52 is slated to run every 15 minutes during rush hour, while the Q53 is slated to run every 8 minutes. When Woodhaven Boulevard is a congested corridor, every bus counts. Of course, Queenslink is the obvious answer, but when the MTA snubbed that project in the 20 years needs assessment, you would expect the MTA to at least compensate by increasing service so they have plausible deniability. But they didn't. And if there's any doubt that the MTA isn't listening to Woodhaven Boulevard riders, that should be gone by now. The Q26 got snubbed too. Originally, this route was twice as long, as extended over to Horace Harding Expressway and Springfield Boulevard, and was a rush route. I thought that served the riders better because many horse-harding riders are heading to Flushing. But the MTA decided to revert that change and instead put the Q75 to Briarwood? Huh? I don't know anyone there that is heading to Briarwood. Okay, maybe some riders who want QBL will take that thing, but a lot of people want Flushing service. My solution? Revert back to what the Q26 was supposed to be, and instead of turning it at Springfield Boulevard, continue it further east to the border of Nassau County. Finally, I would like the Q44 to be extended to JFK Airport. This will not only simplify Queens trips, but also Bronx trips to JFK. Currently, the Bronx has to go on a multi-seat excursion just to get to JFK, but with the Q44 down to the airport, that just becomes a 1 or 2 seat ride. Now, I know that this will be a really long ride, which is why I think bus lanes and a few consolidated stops are necessary if the Q44 is sent to JFK Airport. The Queens bus redesign is just a redesign, which simply does not go far enough. Queens is the fastest growing borough in the city, and with more people moving in, our infrastructure cannot keep up. But with the current transportation plan, which is just to run more buses, that falls short. There are some corridors that are in desperate need of train service. Woodhaven Boulevard is obvious, and Queenslink is the solution. And in a city that made sense, Queenslink would have been built 60 years ago. Instead, we have these slow buses called the Q52 and 53. Now, I have done an entire video on this subject, and I don't feel like repeating myself or else this video will be like 40 minutes long. So if you're interested, the video is in the description. Another corridor is Merrick and Guy R. Brewer. These two roads carry 51,000 riders every single day. Yes, I know that bus ridership is down, but that is quickly going back up. The solution that the MTA wants is more rush routes, which is something, but that is a half measure. The real solution is either some regional rail, or my favorite option, extending the E down to Springfield Boulevard. With the Atlantic branch being the center of Merrick and Guy R. Brewer, it is poised to pick up all of that traffic. This is going to speed up many Southeast Queens commutes, and is going to reduce traffic in Jamaica, which helps everyone. Finally, let's talk about Flushing and Port Washington. The Flushing Main Street station is always one of the busiest in the system, and usually occupies a spot in the top 10. In fact, for a very long time, that stop has been the most used station outside of Manhattan. This is because Flushing serves two roles: a dense commercial hub and a bus feeder neighborhood. Over the last 20 years, when Queens has been increasing in population, Flushing has been at the center of this new development. But with more people comes more traffic, and these Flushing bus routes are always crowded. What I am saying here is that these redesigned half measures will do little to solve congestion here. The real solution is trains. This is why we at the Tech Transit Association have been advocating for the 7 train project for 2 years now. The first step of the 7 train project is Port Washington Regional Rail. This will help spread the load at Flushing and decongest the overcrowded 7 train. After that is finished, we would build 2 new branches for the 7 train, one to Whitestone in College Point, and the other to Oakland Gardens in Bayside. The full details are on Van Schnucken Ragen, and if you're interested, please sign the petition in the description box below. What I am trying to say is that New York City has lost initiative when trying to solve its problems. We are supposedly the greatest city in the world, yet we can't solve basic transportation issues and resort to half measures, like the Queens bus redesign. Buses are supposed to complement trains, not replace them, and with climate change around the corner, we need to take these transportation issues seriously. After all, transportation accounts for the largest share in global emissions in the US, and access to transportation is the single most important factor in one's pursuit in escaping poverty. When you combine these two facts, it should be a no-brainer that investing in trains should be at the forefront of our transit issues. London gets it, Paris gets it, even New York City of the 1900s gets it. It is time for New York City to take initiative in solving our problems. And a good place to start is Queens, where we need a transit revolution. Anyway, if you would like to make a comment on the Queens bus redesign, I put a link in the description. I don't know how much they will take our feedback into consideration, but there is no harm in trying. Please take 2 minutes out of your day and make a comment, because I know that if there are thousands of voices that demand action, then the MTA cannot ignore us.